On this episode of Lapeef Let's Talk,
Like 100 bodies that he confessed to.
Wait, but was there people actually calling saying he was the guy? Did the
You
cops
need,
actually?
you, I would just say you need to go and researching.
Okay, I mean, I can research it, but let's just...
The only pushback, Q, is you made it a race thing when, like, if you want I ain't get my opinion on though. You made it a race thing, and it's crazy niggas that's killing, and they been killing.
Logic, like you're right. You're right. Have you watched the movie? Because I know you probably didn't.
Hell no, I ain't watching that nigga shit.
Exactly. So yeah, you're right. There are a bunch of men, other black men killing. They should be locked up too, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this movie that you haven't seen.
I know Jeffrey. I don't have to see the movie, ma'am. I know Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't know him, but I mean, who don't know Jeffrey Dahmer? Like I know Jeffrey Dahmer, and I'm saying it had nothing to do with race. That's my whole point. It had nothing to do with race.
So if you're in the chat, put a T in the chat if you think the topic is trivial. Put a big picture in there. Put a B in there if you think it's big picture. I will let you guys know what a big trivia is over. Big picture, big trivia. Well, trivia, big picture. You know what I mean. I'll let you guys know when it's over. We got 3 topics that we're going to do that's dedicated to that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into our first topic of the trivial or big picture. Panel, let us know what it is and why. As you guys know, there's been a lot of talks around the Jeffrey Dahmer story. It has been watched 196 million hours since its release. This is the 5th biggest Netflix launch behind Squid Game, Bridgerton, Stranger Things, and all of us are dead. So with that being said, is that trivial or big picture? And explain why. Who wants to go first? I'll just pick someone. Let's start.
I can go first. Just making a modification to my microphone. Hopefully y'all can hear me a little bit better now.
Oh yeah.
I think it's big picture. And the reason that I think it's big picture is I think it speaks to the sentiment of us being desensitized, our desire for things that are gory, traumatic. I think that we crave, or more or less, it highlights our desire for things that may not necessarily be the best for us. And I think that this kind of leapfrogs off of a conversation that we was having last week. I believe it was last week, but Logic was talking a little bit about China, and he was talking about the censorship and things like that. And I think it's a fine line that we have to walk with regard to censorship. But I think it's big picture because it really more or less, and maybe I'm just looking at it a little bit too deep, but I think it more or less highlights what our desires are and our insatiable, unquenched thirst for things that may be toxic, drama-filled, murder-related. And it's just normalized for us now. The things that we used to think that were a little bit like this would be a big deal at any other time, but this is just something that's normal for us now. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that's out of the ordinary. You can scroll up on Instagram, and I follow a couple pages that highlight the different crime that's going on in the communities or in the city down in Detroit that I live in. And it's not even a big deal to just see somebody's security camera and you see a shootout or somebody running down on a chick and, you know, cracking her head wide open. And it's not even a big deal. You go into the comments and you can see people like, oh man, she should have ran faster. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not even a big deal anymore. So I think that is big picture because we're now so desensitized to where it kind of is like porn, right? The further you go or the more that you watch, the more that you desire. And then you find yourself on a deeper, darker path just to be able to get off. So I think that is big picture in my perspective.
I think it's big picture, but I didn't see it at that point. I watched it. So if you actually watch it, you would notice the privilege that man had, right? Let's say, because if he was a black man, they would have investigated. They would have showed up to his house. His neighbor was black. His neighbor called the cops multiple of times. They showed up once. They never even took upon it themselves to really investigate. And I think it's a bigger picture because if it was roles reversed, he would have been probably caught earlier than, I think it was 17 bodies or something of that nature. I don't remember how many bodies he had, right? If I don't know if y'all saw it, but I'm not going to go into detail regarding that part, but I think it's more of a bigger picture on that aspect. Wasn't really looking at the sexual part. And you just notice how much he got away with stuff. One of his first crimes was something with touching a child, and he got a slap on his wrist. Another one where he was in amusement park and touching himself, slap on his wrist, right? It was something along that nature. I don't want to go into deep details. So it's bigger picture because you see how times have changed, where let's say back then, if it was a black man, the first thing he would have probably been locked up for years. And he wouldn't even have able to kill those people, those gay men, the white gay men, the black gay men. So I think it's bigger picture on that stance, not the sexual.
Wait, hold up. King Von, Quando Rondo, the whole Chicago clique, they got like 17 bodies.
I'm sorry, I don't even know who none of those people are. So I'm talking about
all the LA Crips, all these gangs, they got.
Hold on, Logic. Let me just.
She took it to the race thing.
Well, hold on, Logic. One thing is, let me add a caveat to also support your argument. It was just recently, I think it was within a couple years ago, and I just read about it. One of the most notorious serial killers that wind up confessing was a black guy, and he literally was terrorizing the entire California. And he was a tri-state, multi-level, multiple decade killer. I don't know if y'all know who I'm talking about, but he was a black guy, and he had been killing since like the early 70s, 60s. And he literally confessed because they just couldn't catch him. And he was one of the most notorious killers ever. And so I'm telling you, it has nothing to do with race, in my opinion.
No, I'm not saying, Anton, your point has nothing to do with it.
One at a time, y'all. One at a time.
Can I go? His point has nothing to do with mine. We already know this. If I would call the cops right now, not right now, back then, and if it was a black man, we know back then them cops would have probably arrested him.
You need to go and study that guy, that black serial killer. It was literally the same thing.
So is it saying? Well, I don't know. I can't speak on that.
Dude got like 100 bodies that he confessed to.
Wait, but was there people actually calling saying he was the guy? Did the cops?
I would just say you need to go and researching.
Okay, I can research it, but
the only pushback, Q, is you made it a race thing when, like, if you want I ain't get my opinion on though. You made it a race thing, and it's crazy niggas that's killing. And they've been killing.
Logic, you're right. Have you watched the movie? Because I know you probably didn't.
Hell no, I ain't watching that nigga shit.
Exactly. So yeah, you're right. There are a bunch of other black men killing. They should be locked up too, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this movie that you haven't seen.
I know Jeffrey. I don't have to see the movie, ma'am. I know Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't know him, but I mean, who don't know Jeffrey Dahmer? Like, I know
for the show.
Dahmer. And I'm saying it had nothing to do with race. That's my whole point. It had nothing to do with race.